In this video, we're going to do a full analysis of GJ and AU. Now, I really don't think there is such a thing as a full analysis because you can always learn more. You can always analyze more. You can always see more. You can always see things that you didn't see before. So you never really do a full analysis. There's always things that you may miss, things that you may see if you focus on it or see it from a different angle. But let's try to do a proper analysis and how we go about doing that. What do we do first? Obviously, step one, we're on the monthly. What do we do on the monthly? Do we do baby pip style, draw key levels? No, we don't. Okay, so we focus on the past 2 years. Okay, we don't care about the whole chart, like we said in the monthly video, the monthly bias. Let's focus on just the candles that matter and the most recent couple years. Okay, here we are today. What do we have here to the left? A zone. Is it a valid monthly zone? Absolutely. We had a footprint that originated from this origin. How do we draw this zone? From the high, non-negotiable, the most expensive price to the base of that candle. So the base. But this is what we call a big body base. Okay, so we have the whole move down, and the zone is actually half of the move. We don't want the impulsive move to be a part of the zone. The zone is the origin of the move. So where the move originated from. I want to see where the move was born. So this is a big body candle and too wide of a base. So we need to find a better base. And you don't need to look for this is our proper zone and a proper base. So here we have a monthly sell zone. So what do we do on the monthly to get our bias? Are we bullish, bearish, or potentially reversing? Well, anytime we're at any monthly zone, we are potentially reversing our bias. Does that mean HPT sell or HPT buy? We really can't say. But what do we do when we're neutral and our bias is potentially reversing? We trade the deeper half. So the smart ones were selling in the deeper half, and they either closed out or they're still holding, depending on their positions. Okay, but this is the proper way that a trader should have reacted to the sell zone. Did it drop to zero from the bottom half? No, but you had a few hundred pip drop. You could easily catch a trade and take advantage of the first tap of a monthly zone, which is almost always likely to get a reaction. And a monthly reaction is hundreds of pips. Not bad. And you can even trade the first tap and ride it up into the deeper half where you would start selling up there. But many ways to trade it, but this is an analysis. We're not here to execute, and we don't trade on the monthly. Okay, so what other monthly zone matters? I'm sure there's a buy zone somewhere. Doesn't matter right now. Let's focus on what matters. Our monthly bias is potentially reversing, which means we'll have to be extra fluid. But how we deal with these zones is we trade the deeper half. Okay, maybe it wipes it, maybe it doesn't, but your job is to react and not predict. Okay, so that is our bias. And after you determine your bias, then you can go on your macro time frame. Some of you use the weekly. So we're going to do it all. Let's get on the weekly And let's delete our monthly zone. And now we want to draw weekly zones. Okay, so you can consider this a weekly footprint. So the creation of a new sell zone, weekly sell zone up there, but I'm not really interested in the sell zone. Okay, what do we have here on this weekly chart? Well, we have a footprint up here that broke a nice solid swing point on the weekly. So we have a valid buy zone. Now you can use this, you can use this pin bar if you want a wider range, but this is definitely an origin, a valid origin of some potential buying. So let's draw this valid weekly buy zone. And what do we notice about here? Every zone we draw, we need to understand a few things. Okay, which retest and where is it coming from? Okay, obviously, where is it coming from? Where is it going? I wish we knew where it was going, but you can try to understand where is it coming from and which retest is it. We're just here to study the facts, nothing more. First retest, right there. Did we have some crazy footprint? No, not really. Not a good sign. And then we had a second retest. Now, nobody said the second retest is not going to work, but the first is the most reliable. Second, third, fourth, obviously riskier. I wouldn't trade anything after a second. Okay, even the second is a little risky, but let's focus on the first. But in this case, a first retest, and that was the buying power. Another retest, which is, there's a reason why it's coming back down to this buy zone, and then again some buying power, but not as much. So this one couldn't break anything, and the second retest again, it couldn't break anything. Now it seems we had a third. We don't want to predict that it's over, but it may be coming back here. So what are the facts here? You have a third retest, okay, and what else? It's coming from a monthly zone, okay, which is very important to have this context. What do you think is likely to hold? Now, we don't really know, but you can just consider the probabilities. A monthly move coming down into a 4-hour zone. So we had the monthly move down, and then the weekly first retest, and then the second retest, and now the third. So it's all about probabilities, but the monthly force, you can consider it, is the most powerful. Okay, what do you think will happen if price is coming from a weekly zone and hits a little 4-hour? Not so strong over here. It may wipe it out. How about a monthly move that's coming into a weekly buy zone? The monthly obviously is stronger. Okay, physics 101. But let's bring this candle back and see this weekly zone and the third retest, and there's really not much more you can do here. Okay, there's always two zones that exist. Okay, a zone above current market price and a zone below current market price. So the sell zone above, pretty far, I'm not really interested in that right now. A buy zone below, now that's, it seems, where we're heading or drifting towards. So this is the focus, okay? Who draws one zone? The pro. Laser focus on the one single zone that matters. Price is not going to be at two zones at once, okay? Who draws two zones? I would say the average trader. Who draws 3+ zones? The newbies. You don't need 3, 4, 5, 500. You don't need 700 buy zones above. You don't need 700 sell zones below. Draw the one zone that matters today. And if I'm a weekly trader, this is the zone I'll have, and this is the zone I'll attempt to trade. Okay? Now, we're not saying to buy at this buy zone at the third retest. That's not what I'm saying. But if it is a third retest coming from the monthly into a weekly buy zone, and it could just be some retracement, even a healthy retracement can go halfway. So it's not a big surprise if it wipes out this weekly zone, which it may do. Probabilities, okay? And you could trade the wipeout on your micro, okay? We're not here to teach how to trade the wipeout, but this is the situation of it over here, okay? Maybe we have a 4-hour trader. Well, forget the weekly, let's get on the 4-hour and see the zones that matter, okay? Always, there's current market price and there's a buy zone above and a sell zone below. So let's see the zones we have on a 4-hour. You don't have to draw the zones on all your time frames. If I'm a 4-hour trader, I'll draw my 4-hour stuff. If I'm a weekly swing trader, I'll draw my weekly zone. Don't draw all the zones on all the time frames, okay? And keep the one zone that matters on the chart. You don't want all the zones on all the time frames visible, just the one zone that matters today. So here we are on the 4-hour. Now, to the left of this, I see a down move. Did this break the previous swing point? Absolutely. Is this a valid sell zone? Yes, it is. Is it a very weak 4-hour one? Yes, it is. Okay, but let's see how we can draw this. From the high, that's non-negotiable. Okay, we learned that we can use volume to draw a zone, maybe across this whole cluster here. And you could even use the base of the volume for your sell zone. Okay, you could, without using any volume, try to use the candles. This could be a base. Now, what do we do in these cases where it may look a little bit cluttered and ugly? You may go on the 1-hour just to see how those candles look. Okay, so just to get a more accurate open or close, maybe something similar to this or to this. It's really no right or wrong answer. Okay, I wish there was. Okay, it's really up to the trader, but not a bad base, not a bad base here, but this whole origin here, this whole cluster of candles is an origin of some selling. So it is a valid sell zone. So it seems that here we are today. We are actually there reacting to this zone now. Okay, so which retest is this? The first, tradable. And always keep the monthly context in mind, okay? If we're coming from a monthly sell zone, do you want to focus on little 4-hour buy zones or maybe some 4-hour sell zones? The point is, keep the monthly bias in mind, okay? So here we have a 4 hour zone. Now we do have maybe another buy zone here, but we're not there. Okay, so if it did return here, it's just a valid zone. Is this the first touch? It'll be the second touch. So the second touch, and we're coming from a monthly, but we're hitting a 4 hour. Who do you think will win? Probabilities, right? But somebody on a 4 hour chart, which other zones matter besides this one? It really doesn't. Maybe they sold. Well, let's give them a target. Not a bad target for any short. Okay, very simple trading here, but we're not here to set targets and execute. We're here to analyze a chart. Okay, valid signal, valid zone, and there's the probabilities. Obviously, you have a higher range, and obviously, you have that buy zone below, but nobody cares. Worry about the one zone that the price is reacting to today. What else matters? Okay, so you had your monthly bias and then the weekly chart with the weekly zones that matter and which retest and where are we coming from. And now we have the 4 hour zones, and this is a first retest sell zone, and a buy zone down here would be the second retest. Just know which retest, know where it's coming from, and know where maybe it's likely heading. Okay, keep it very binary. It's either going to wipe this zone or the zone will be respected. It's very binary. Okay, and that requires patience. So that is our GJ analysis. Let's look at AU. Let's look at this monthly chart. Notice how we're going to look to the 80s. No, we're not. Let's focus on the past couple years that matter. Okay. Notice how this one also has a sell zone that we actually seems to have left. Okay. So which zone matters here from the high to the base? Okay. And this is a good sign that we like when price comes back into the range only to be protected and another footprint. This is very solid zone right here. So what is your monthly bias? Well, maybe similar to GJ. You would be selling from where? From the deeper half of a monthly sell zone. Okay, we're not saying to trade the monthly. We're saying to get the bias, the directional bias off the monthly, and all that aligns when you go on the smaller time frames. Okay. Now, what's our bias here? Potentially reversing, but position traders would be selling from the deeper half of the monthly zone. Okay. Now, when would we go bearish? Which is a good question. Well, maybe after a monthly footprint. And then we can go officially bearish, which just means HPT sells if you sell anywhere. And if you decide to buy, it's just LPT buys. Very simple, but that's our bias. And then you would go on your buy zone, sell zones, 4 hour, whatever it is, and buy and sell. See, react to the zones. And you would know the probability of that trade, of the buy and of the sell. But that would only be if we had a monthly footprint, which may happen, okay? But we're not here to react. So we're potentially reversing, neutral, trading the monthly zone until our bias shifts, which is either a bearish footprint or a bullish footprint, and it closes above the zone and wipes it, and maybe we go bullish. But for now, we are potentially reversing, but leaning towards bearish. Okay, there's also a valid buy zone here, which is a valid footprint. So we have a monthly sell zone above and a monthly buy zone below. And this is how you would be structured on the monthly time frame. A zone above and a zone below. But which zone matters? Both? No, not really. This buy zone is what matters because it seems we're drifting towards it and we tapped it, which had a slight tap from the top half and a few hundred pip move from this monthly buy zone. Okay, what happens if it comes back? Well, it is the second touch, but it's the first time that it enters the deeper half, so we need to be careful here. Okay, but that's predicting. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. So monthly buy zone below, monthly sell zone above. Let's just see how it looks on the weekly. Okay, so this is our monthly zone, and we could also consider it a weekly buy zone. Let's delete our monthly sell zone above there, okay, and focus on our weekly chart analysis. Okay, so we have a weekly buy zone. Is this the first touch? No, it's not. So we have potentially a weekly buy zone, but a second touch. Now, like we said, probabilities. This is a weekly buy zone, second touch, but it's coming, the price is coming from a monthly. And it's hitting a weekly buy zone for the second touch. Maybe we have a wipeout. We're not really here to predict, but just like DJ, we want to make sure that we watch out for these retracements. This could just be a healthy retracement. Now there is another zone here, slight one, okay, and another buy zone here, a basing buy zone, but those are irrelevant right now, okay? We're trying to train you guys to focus on the one zone that matters. So important. You guys are on 300 pairs, drawing 30 zones. One pair, one zone, one session maybe, one system. Let's get serious about this game here. It is a game, but it's a serious game. It's just a business, okay? But you need to take this business seriously and learn the rules of the game and play along. Okay, let's see if we have a weekly sell zone. I'm sure there is one here, a major one, but how about this one here? Well, did we get a footprint? If you can call that a footprint, this is where it gets a little tricky on the weekly, because even a little footprint on the weekly is very strong. So you could be active here, and you definitely want to be aware of this range because there was some selling there. Now, I would consider this a very weak weekly zone, but valid signal, valid zone. Technically, you could take it, okay? But that's not the zone that matters today. It seems that this is the weekly zone that matters now, okay? And it's not the first touch, but not a bad idea to get active if you were to see a signal in the deeper half. This is not 4-hour stuff. This is weekly, which is very strong. Obviously, monthly is the strongest. Weekly is also strong, okay? But this is the situation with AU on the weekly. Zone above and a zone below, but this buy zone, maybe even like that, this is the buy zone that matters today on this weekly time frame. Let's see what we have on the 4 hour. An origin here that we see, very strong buy zone, and maybe a down move here. How many previous structures did this one break? A few, all right? But let's zoom in and see if this here is a first retest. So you may have a reaction here to the left, as this range or move may have originated from this cluster here. Okay, so we want to be careful if it were to come back to this 4 hour range. It may not be a fresh first retest, but let's get a little more zoomed in on the 4 hour, because 4 hour is our smallest time frame that we use to draw zones. So you may have to zoom in a little, and you may find weak zones. Although they're valid, they may be weak, like this one here. Although valid, it's a weak zone. Now, did they sell more? Well, there was no footprint from this first touch. So what if the price returns to this sell zone, first touch or second? It's the second retest. Okay, and we'll handle that accordingly. Okay, but the first sell-off and the first time it came back, I like to see a footprint, but I did not see it, and it came right back up. If it comes back to the zone, I'm not super excited to short. Okay, so watch out on that second touch. All right, and this is the zone that matters today. Okay, here's the thing about this trading thing. Maybe it's not a first retest, okay? It's the second or third or fourth. Well, maybe a wipeout trade opportunity presents itself if it comes down and then comes right back up and then drops even less and then comes right back up and drops even less. This could be a wipeout scenario, and it is risky to trade a wipeout because you're buying at a sell zone. But if it is not the first retest and you see a potential wipeout scenario, you could take the wipeout trade. Okay, it really depends. Sometimes there is no first retest of a valid zone. Okay, this is the reality of what we're dealing with today. Okay, it's not what I like. You could consider this a buy zone because of this footprint, but this is that weak 4 hour stuff. I'm not really against it, but this is not the most reliable stuff in the world. Okay, so watch out for that. But this is our zone that matters up here, and it had a first retest, and if it's coming right back, that says something. Okay, and if it goes back down and has the footprint, that's also saying something. Okay, not much to do here on this 4 hour. Remember what we said in the other videos. Maybe there's some buy zone here. Okay, who gets slaughtered right now? The kids who will have to trade where? In the middle. It's in the middle of nowhere, which is the really hard scalping stuff, but they're trying to find an entry. Okay, should I sell? Should I buy? It's very tough to trade in the middle. Get active at the zones, okay, and be aware when it's just in between these zones, okay, because you actually have to predict and say, okay, buying or selling, these are the toughest trades in the middle. Okay, so in terms of AU, this is the 4 hour analysis. We have a zone above, and it is not the first touch, and it may be a wipeout, but we're not here to predict anything. Okay, and keep the monthly bias in mind. Okay, and you also have to understand on this monthly chart. Okay, if the price returns back and starts to go up back to the monthly zone, that tells us something. Okay, remember, we are not bearish. Maybe there you can be bearish, but the point is, if it goes down, that tells us something. And if it goes up, that also tells us something. If it goes down, that tells us BFIs sold at the sell zone here monthly, and it's being respected. If it goes up, that likely tells us BFIs are not the sellers, because if they were selling, who is this pushing it back up to the zone? So the BFIs may be the buyers. But regardless of what happens, okay, you're going to remain neutral until our bias shifts, okay? But whatever the market does, it's telling you something. Even if it's doing nothing, it's telling you something, okay? So this is our analysis on AU and GJ. Hopefully this is how you guys break down your charts, okay? Get on the monthly, get the bias. Maybe we're bullish, maybe we're bearish, and maybe we're at a monthly zone, which is where we have to be neutral and trade the deeper half, okay? And then if you're a weekly trader, get on the weekly, see which zone above, zone below matters. And if you're a 4-hour trader, get on the 4 hour and maybe have the weekly context in mind along with the monthly context in mind, because this is what we mean when we said the looks good indicator, okay? What did we say? If it looks good to you and you're a newbie, if it looks real good to sell, okay, Mr. Newbie, that's when you buy, okay? If it looks real good to buy, well, that's when you sell, okay? Those are for the newbies. Now, anyone who's seasoned, okay, we want to take advantage of this looks good indicator. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, this is when we see the overall structure of the trade. So we have the monthly context, okay? I have the weekly context as well, okay? And not only that, but previous week's high and low. That's also important. So when you want to take a trade, let's say you take a 4-hour, let's say you take a trade on the 15-minute off a 4-hour zone. Well, does it look good? Maybe do the looks good indicator. Keep your entry where it is on your 15-minute on a 4-hour zone, but check the monthly context. See how your trade looks, how your entry looks within the monthly context, if it looks good. See how your entry looks within the weekly context, okay? You always want to see last week's high and low and last week's weekly candle. How did last week's candle close? Even the monthly candle, how it's forming throughout the month, okay? That's what I mean by it looks good. Hopefully, when you take a trade, see if it looks good. Go on the monthly, the weekly, see the context of your trade. Maybe it looks pretty dumb when you get on this monthly or weekly context. Maybe it looks pretty good when you look at it. That's just a check that we can do. And obviously it helps if you've been doing this for many years. What looks good to you maybe looks good. And if you're new, if it looks good to you, likely for you to do the opposite. Okay, so this is our full analysis of GJ and AU. Should be able to analyze any pair, but we're not analysts. We're not here to analyze and draw a bunch of zones. We're here to pick one pair, one session, one system, and trade our pair, squeeze it, pyramid it up, down, sideways every week. All right?